Day 18. The Iron Dome, once hailed as the unbreakable shield of the Jewish state, lies in ruins tonight. What you are witnessing is not a skirmish. It is not a limited exchange. This is the moment Israel's legendary air defense system has been brought to its knees by a relentless barrage of Iranian ballistic missiles carrying warheads weighing up to 3 tons each. Tel Aviv is burning. Strategic military bases have been reduced to craters. Underground bunkers engineered to survive the worst are cracking open like eggshells under the sheer explosive power of these monstrous warheads. For the first time in this conflict, the unthinkable has happened. Israel is being forced to its knees. Ladies and gentlemen, the Middle East has crossed a historic threshold. A regional power long underestimated has just rewritten the rules of modern warfare, using a devastating combination of patience, numbers, and raw destructive force. While the world was watching, Iran executed one of the most sophisticated attrition strategies in recent military history. They bled Israel's expensive interceptors dry with waves of low-cost drones and cruise missiles, then delivered the killing blow with heavy strategic weapons that no defense system on Earth could stop once the skies were left unprotected. This is not fiction. This is unfolding right now. Today on Shadow War Reports, we cut through the mainstream noise and deliver the unfiltered truth. We will break down exactly how Iran's 3-ton warheads turned the tide of battle. We will expose the fatal mistakes that led to the collapse of Israel's Iron Dome. We will reveal how Donald Trump's promise of a quick victory has disintegrated into a strategic nightmare for Washington. And most importantly, we will show you who is truly winning on the grand geopolitical chessboard as Russia and China quietly position themselves to reshape the global order. If you're tired of sanitized coverage and want raw, in-depth military and geopolitical analysis, hit that like button right now and subscribe to Shadow War Reports. Turn on notifications so you never miss a critical update. The age of unchallenged Western technological supremacy in the Middle East is cracking tonight. The question is no longer whether Iran can strike deep into Israel. The question is, how long can Israel survive this level of sustained, precision-guided devastation? How long before America is forced to make an impossible choice between full-scale war or watching its closest ally collapse? The monsters have left their underground lairs, and the world will never be the same again. Day 18 of the Iran-Israel war has become a defining moment in modern military history. What began as a calculated exchange has now escalated into a full-scale strategic assault that has shattered Israel's defensive doctrine. For the first 17 days, Iran executed a masterclass in attrition warfare. They unleashed thousands of low-cost suicide drones and older-generation cruise missiles in coordinated swarm attacks. These inexpensive assets, many valued at only tens of thousands of dollars each, were designed to overwhelm Israel's multi-layered air defense network. The goal was not immediate destruction, but systematic exhaustion. Israel's response was predictable yet costly. The Iron Dome, David's sling, and arrow systems fired hundreds of high-end interceptor missiles, each costing between $50,000 and $2 million. Reports from the battlefield indicate that by day 15, Israel had already expended over 60% of its readily available interceptor stockpiles. The saturation tactic worked exactly as planned. Cheap Iranian projectiles forced Israel to spend expensive munitions at an unsustainable 10-to-1 or even 20-to-1 cost ratio. By the morning of day 18, the breaking point arrived. Israel's radar systems were overwhelmed by waves of decoy targets and electronic jamming. Air defense command centers reported severe overload as tracking computers struggled to differentiate between real threats and dummies. At this critical juncture, Iran shifted gears with chilling precision. Starting at approximately 2 a.m. local time, Iran began launching its heavy strategic ballistic missiles from deeply buried underground silos. These were not the lightweight rockets seen in previous days. These were advanced long-range missiles carrying massive 3-ton warheads. Some estimates suggest individual warheads weighing between 2,500 to 3,000 kilograms. The first wave targeted key air bases in central and southern Israel. Multiple F-35 and F-15 fighter jets were destroyed on the ground before they could scramble. Runways were cratered, fuel depots ignited, and command bunkers compromised. A second wave struck logistics hubs and munitions storage facilities near Tel Aviv. Eyewitness footage shows massive secondary explosions, indicating direct hits on weapons stockpiles. Initial damage assessments are staggering. At least 7 major military installations have been heavily damaged or destroyed. Israeli officials have confirmed significant casualties among Air Force personnel, though exact numbers remain classified. Independent sources estimate infrastructure losses already exceeding $1.8 billion in the first 12 hours of the heavy barrage alone. The failure of the Iron Dome was not due to technological inferiority alone, but a calculated strategic collapse. Once the interceptor reserves were depleted, the system became largely symbolic. Stationary launchers with no ammunition to fire. Israel's much-vaunted multi-tiered defense, built over decades with American support, was rendered ineffective within hours once the saturation phase succeeded. Iran's tactics demonstrated sophisticated planning. First, bleed the defenders' resources, line their sensors, then deliver overwhelming firepower with precision-guided heavy payloads. The 3-ton Warheads, equipped with both penetrating and thermobaric variants, proved especially devastating against hardened underground targets. Penetrators breached reinforced concrete layers, followed by thermobaric blasts that created lethal pressure waves inside bunkers. As of now, Israel has activated emergency resupply requests from the United States. However, even American stockpiles cannot be delivered and integrated fast enough to reverse the current momentum. Iranian missile launches continue at a steady pace, showing no signs of depletion in their strategic reserves. This is no longer a defensive struggle for Israel. The battlefield initiative has decisively shifted to Tehran. The once dominant Israeli Air Force is now largely grounded, and major population centers are exposed to sustained attack for the first time in this conflict. The military reality on the ground has changed. The question is no longer if Iran can strike Israel, but how much more damage will be inflicted before any ceasefire can be negotiated. At the heart of Iran's devastating offensive on day 18 lies its most feared weapon yet, the 3-ton Warhead. These are not ordinary ballistic missiles. These are strategic heavy payload systems, developed and produced domestically despite decades of international sanctions. Launched from deeply fortified underground bunkers designed to survive preemptive strikes, these missiles represent the pinnacle of Iran's self-reliant military industry. Each warhead weighs approximately 2,800 to 3,000 kilograms, roughly the weight of a small truck. This massive payload is divided into specialized variants that maximize destructive effect against both surface and hardened underground targets. The first stage uses high-penetration warheads with delayed fuses, engineered to slam through multiple layers of reinforced concrete and rock, sometimes up to 6 to 8 meters thick. Once inside the target structure, the follow-up thermobaric or cluster submunitions detonate, creating massive overpressure waves that suck the oxygen out of enclosed spaces and incinerate everything within a wide radius. The missiles themselves are believed to be advanced derivatives of Iran's long-range ballistic programs, possibly including the Sejil or Khorramshahr series, with upgraded guidance systems. Estimated range exceeds 1,500 to 2,000 kilometers, allowing Iran to strike deep into Israeli territory from secure launch positions inside its own borders. Terminal velocity reaches Mach 8 to Mach 12 during re-entry, making them extremely difficult to intercept even under ideal conditions. Accuracy has also improved significantly. While older Iranian missiles relied on basic inertial guidance with a CEP of several hundred meters, these new heavy systems are reported to incorporate advanced inertial navigation combined with satellite-assisted or terrain-matching guidance, bringing accuracy down to within 30 to 50 meters, sufficient to hit large military complexes and air bases with devastating effect. Now, compare this to Israel's defensive technology. The Iron Dome was designed primarily to intercept short-range rockets and artillery shells. It excels in that role, but was never built to handle sustained saturation attacks, followed by hypersonic speed heavy ballistic missiles. Each Iron Dome interceptor costs roughly $50,000 to $100,000. While Iran's decoy drones cost only a few $1,000s. This cost asymmetry was ruthlessly exploited. Even more advanced systems like David's Sling and Arrow 3, which are capable of engaging ballistic missiles, have critical limitations: limited magazine capacity and extremely high cost per shot. Once their stockpiles were exhausted through Iran's earlier swarm tactics, these systems became little more than expensive stationary targets. What makes Iran's achievement remarkable is the factor of self-reliance. Unlike Israel, whose Iron Dome and fighter jets depend heavily on American funding, components, and resupply, Iran has developed this entire strike capability under heavy sanctions. Its underground missile production facilities, dispersed across mountainous regions, have proven remarkably resilient. This demonstrates a level of strategic depth and industrial independence that few nations in the region can match. The 3-ton warhead is more than just a weapon. It is a statement of technological maturity. It combines raw kinetic energy, sophisticated fusing systems, and multi-stage destructive mechanisms into a single platform. When these monsters screen down from the stratosphere, they create craters over 20 meters wide and generate seismic tremors detectable many kilometers away. Military analysts watching this conflict are now forced to rewrite textbooks. The era where expensive high-tech defensive shields could indefinitely protect against a determined, numerically superior attacker using cost-effective saturation and heavy payload strikes is coming to an end. Iran has proven that patience, strategic planning, and indigenous weapon development can overcome technological superiority backed by foreign powers. These 3-ton warheads are not just destroying concrete and steel in Israel tonight. They are destroying long-held assumptions about modern warfare itself. This is the turning point. On the 18th day, at approximately 2 a.m. local time, the Iron Dome did not just fail, it died. After weeks of relentless low-cost swarm attacks, Israel's interceptor stockpiles finally ran dry. The once proud multi-layered defense system, funded and equipped by the United States, was reduced to empty launchers and silent radars. The sky over Israel, long considered impenetrable, suddenly lay wide open. That was the exact moment Iran had been patiently waiting for. Hundreds of heavy ballistic missiles carrying 3-ton warheads were unleashed from underground silos. Within hours, key air bases, command centers, and strategic infrastructure across central Israel were engulfed in flames. Tel Aviv's defensive perimeter collapsed. Underground bunkers designed to withstand nuclear-level attacks were breached and gutted by penetrating warheads followed by thermobaric blasts. This was Israel's fatal mistake: over-reliance on expensive American technology and the illusion of absolute air superiority. They fell perfectly into Iran's trap, burning through irreplaceable munitions on decoys, only to face the real hammer when it mattered most. The domino effect was immediate and brutal. Military paralysis led to logistical collapse. Air power was grounded. Civilian morale plummeted as air raid sirens screamed unanswered. Political pressure inside Israel reached breaking point. You are watching something historic. A technologically superior force being systematically dismantled by superior strategy, patience, and raw firepower. If this barrage continues unchecked in the next 24 to 48 hours, military sources warn, Israel may face the real possibility of a total breakdown in organized defense. This is the moment the war changed forever. You're seeing what mainstream media is afraid to show clearly: the limits of Western military technology when faced with determined, self-reliant resistance. The turning point has arrived. While Israel burns under the weight of Iran's 3-ton warheads, Washington finds itself trapped in a rapidly worsening strategic nightmare. President Donald Trump's promise of a swift victory, ending the war in 3 days, has completely collapsed. What was supposed to be a decisive show of American power has instead become a quagmire that threatens to drain U.S. resources and credibility across the globe. The United States now faces an impossible dilemma. On one side is the long-standing commitment to defend Israel at all costs. On the other is Trump's core doctrine of America first, avoiding endless foreign wars that drain American blood and treasure. That contradiction is now tearing at the heart of U.S. policy. Pentagon officials are reportedly in emergency sessions. Emergency arms shipments are being rushed toward Israel. But even American stockpiles are showing strain. The rapid depletion of advanced interceptors has forced the U.S. to divert munitions originally reserved for other potential conflicts in the Pacific and Europe. More concerning is Washington's hesitation to intervene directly. Despite strong rhetoric, no major U.S. strike groups have launched large-scale retaliatory operations against Iranian targets. The reason is clear. American bases in Qatar, Bahrain, and the UAE, along with aircraft carriers in the Persian Gulf, now sit within range of Iran's proven ballistic missile capability. Any direct involvement risks triggering a wider regional war that could see American assets directly targeted. European NATO allies are growing increasingly uneasy. Several key nations have begun quietly distancing themselves, wary of being dragged into a conflict with unpredictable consequences for global energy markets and their own economies. The once unified Western Front is showing visible cracks. This situation exposes a deeper geopolitical reality. America's ability to project power and protect its closest allies is being seriously questioned. For decades, the U.S. maintained dominance in the Middle East through technological superiority and the threat of overwhelming force. That aura of invincibility is now being tested like never before. The heavy 3-ton warheads raining down on Israel are not just a military challenge. They are a direct test of American resolve and reliability. If Washington cannot effectively shield Israel, how can it reassure other allies in Asia or Europe during future crises? As smoke continues to rise over Tel Aviv, the United States is learning a harsh lesson. Sometimes the strongest military in the world can still be paralyzed by careful strategy, geography, and the high cost of escalation. The coming hours will determine whether America doubles down with direct intervention or begins searching for a face-saving exit strategy. While the United States is entangled in a costly dilemma and Israel fights for survival, two major powers are watching events unfold with strategic patience: Russia and China. In Moscow, President Putin finds himself in one of the most advantageous positions since the start of the Ukraine conflict. As Iran's missile barrages intensify and threats to the Strait of Hormuz grow, global oil prices have surged past $100 per barrel and continue climbing. This energy windfall is delivering billions of dollars in extra revenue to Russia, directly undermining Western sanctions that have strained its economy for years. Beyond finances, the Middle East crisis has diverted American attention, weapons, and political focus away from Ukraine. U.S. military aid and interceptor stockpiles originally meant for Kyiv are now being redirected to prop up Israel. This breathing room has allowed Russian forces to increase pressure on multiple fronts in eastern Ukraine. For Moscow, every Iranian 3-ton warhead fired at Tel Aviv indirectly weakens America's position on the global stage. Meanwhile, China is playing an even more sophisticated long game. Beijing has positioned itself as the ultimate beneficiary of this conflict without firing a single shot. Chinese oil tankers continue to pass through the Strait of Hormuz under Iranian protection, while Western vessels face increasing restrictions and insurance costs. This selective access gives China a significant advantage in securing energy supplies at relatively stable prices. More importantly, China is accelerating its strategy to dethrone the petrodollar. With Iran demanding alternative currencies for oil transactions and offering favorable terms to non-Western partners, Beijing is rapidly expanding the use of the yuan in Middle East energy trade. Long-term contracts with Iran and several Gulf states are being signed, further embedding Chinese economic influence in the region. Through infrastructure projects, technology partnerships, and financial diplomacy, China is quietly filling the vacuum left by America's declining credibility. While Washington sends weapons and issues threats, Beijing offers economic stability and respect for sovereignty, a message resonating strongly with many regional players. Together, Russia and China form the backbone of an emerging counter-axis. Russia provides energy and military depth, while China supplies economic power and global financial alternatives. Their coordinated indirect support for Iran is reshaping the balance of power. This is the new geopolitical reality. While the U.S. and Israel bleed resources and prestige in direct confrontation, Russia and China are harvesting massive strategic gains from the sidelines. The age of unipolar dominance is fading fast. A multipolar world, led by this powerful Eurasian bloc, is rising in its place. Beyond missiles, radars, and warheads, every great conflict is ultimately decided by one invisible force: the strength of will. In this war, Iran has demonstrated a level of national resolve that has stunned military observers. For years, under heavy sanctions, constant threats, and isolation, the Iranian people and its leadership have cultivated a deep spirit of defiance and self-reliance. This is not blind aggression. It is a calculated, patient determination forged through decades of hardship. Iran's strategy reflects this spirit perfectly. They were willing to sacrifice thousands of low-cost drones as decoys, endure economic pain, and wait for the perfect moment to deploy their strategic 3-ton warheads. This patience is itself a weapon. It shows a nation that understands long-term struggle and is prepared to absorb blows while maintaining offensive momentum. In stark contrast, Israel's spirit appears shaken to its core. For decades, Israel has relied on technological superiority and unwavering American support to maintain an image of invincibility. The sudden collapse of the Iron Dome has shattered more than just a defense system. It has broken a national psychology built on the belief that no one could truly reach them. The sight of 3-ton warheads slamming into their territory has triggered something deeper than physical damage, a crisis of confidence. The illusion that American technology and funding could guarantee absolute security has been exposed. When advanced fighter jets sit helplessly in destroyed hangars and underground bunkers fail to protect their occupants, a profound psychological blow lands on both the military and civilian population. Iran is fighting for survival, sovereignty, and dignity, motivations that historically produce extraordinary resilience. Israel, on the other hand, is discovering the limits of borrowed power. No matter how advanced the weapons, if the will behind them depends on external support and fragile assumptions, it eventually falters when truly tested. This war has become a brutal contest of endurance. Iran's willingness to fight on its own terms, using domestically developed weapons and accepting necessary sacrifices, gives it a significant moral and psychological edge. History repeatedly shows that technology alone rarely wins wars. The side with stronger will, clearer purpose, and greater willingness to endure almost always prevails in the end. As the explosions continue over Israel, it is becoming increasingly clear which side possesses the deeper resolve. The explosions of Iran's 3-ton warheads over Tel Aviv are not just reshaping the Middle East, they are accelerating the transformation of the entire global order. For decades, the United States built and maintained a unipolar world based on military supremacy, technological dominance, and the petrodollar system. That era is now cracking under pressure. The inability of America's most advanced ally, backed by billions in U.S. military aid, to defend itself against a sanctioned regional power has exposed the limits of Western hegemony. The conflict has revealed a new reality. Expensive technology and financial power can no longer guarantee victory when faced with strategic patience, self-reliance, and overwhelming firepower. Israel's collapse of the Iron Dome and America's hesitation to intervene directly have sent a powerful message to every nation watching. U.S. security guarantees are no longer absolute. Meanwhile, the emerging axis of Iran, Russia, and China is growing stronger through complementary strengths. Iran provides battlefield resilience and control over critical energy choke points. Russia supplies energy leverage and military depth. China offers economic power, financial alternatives, and long-term strategic investment. Together, they are carving out a multipolar world where no single power can dictate global rules. The economic dimension is particularly devastating. Iran's effective control over the Strait of Hormuz has already pushed oil prices above $100 per barrel. By allowing Chinese and Russian tankers to pass while restricting Western shipping, Tehran is actively undermining the petrodollar, the foundation of American financial dominance for over 70 years. As more countries begin settling oil trades in yuan or other non-dollar currencies, the erosion of dollar supremacy accelerates. This war has become a catalyst for global realignment. Nations that once hedged their bets are now reconsidering their dependence on Washington. Traditional U.S. allies in Europe and the Gulf are growing nervous, while many global South countries see new opportunities in a multipolar system that offers greater sovereignty and fewer conditionalities. The 3-ton warheads landing in Israel are more than weapons. They are symbols of a historic power shift. The old unipolar order, built after the Cold War, is dying on the battlefields of the Middle East. A new era is being born in fire and strategic calculation. What we are witnessing is not merely a regional conflict. It is the visible fracture of the old world order and the painful birth of a new one. As the smoke continues to rise over Tel Aviv and the echoes of 3-ton warheads still reverberate across the region, one thing has become crystal clear. The world order we once knew is changing before our eyes. This is no longer just a war between Iran and Israel. It is a historic turning point. The visible collapse of unchallenged Western dominance in the Middle East and the rapid rise of the new multipolar reality. The fall of the Iron Dome, the failure of America's quick victory plan, and the strategic triumph of Iranian patience have exposed deep cracks in the old system. While Washington struggles with impossible choices, Russia and China are quietly reshaping the global chessboard in their favor. The question now is not whether this conflict will end, but how it will reshape our world in the coming months and years. Comment below and tell us, how long do you think Israel can survive this level of sustained bombardment? Is this the beginning of the end for the petrodollar system? Who do you believe will emerge as the real winner in this new multipolar world? Your thoughts matter. We read every comment. If you value raw, unfiltered analysis that goes beyond mainstream narratives, please hit the like button, share this video with others who need to see it, and subscribe to Shadow War Reports with notifications turned on. We will continue delivering hard-hitting, in-depth reports on the most critical conflicts shaping our future. In our next report, we will analyze the nightmare scenario. What happens if the Strait of Hormuz is completely shut down for 2 weeks? Until then, stay sharp and stay informed. This is Shadow War Reports. No agenda, no filters, only the truth. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next briefing.